The time now for the day's top business news. I'm speaking slowly to give Brian a few more seconds to recover. Starting with renewed threats from US President Donald Trump to escalate America's trade conflicts on a number of fronts. Brian is here with the latest. You all right?
Yes, Stuart. I pulled myself together by now. Well, Donald Trump, of course, once again threatening to retaliate for what he calls unfair taxes on American wine entering the European Union, singling out French wine in particular in a CNBC interview Monday. The U.S. currently taxes European wine at 5.3 to 14.9 cents per bottle, while the U.S. takes 11 to 29 cents a bottle on American wine. As an EU member, France, of course, doesn't set its own tariff policy. Washington, though, is getting set to begin new trade negotiations with Brussels. Trump wants greater access to European markets for U.S. agriculture. That's something the Europeans have strongly resisted. That wine tariff threat, that's likely a tactic to raise the pressure on Brussels ahead of those trade talks. Well, France, of course, is far from Trump's only trade war target. Days after reaching a deal with Mexico to head off tariffs in exchange for stemming the northward flow of illegal migrants, Trump renewed his threat, referring in a tweet to secret provisions of the deal that need approval by the Mexican Congress. He also says he's ready to hit Chinese imports with new tariffs if President Xi Jinping doesn't show at the G20 meeting in Japan for expected trade talks between the two leaders. Here's Trump.
We're getting 25% on $250 billion worth of goods. So a lot of money is pouring into our treasury. We've never gotten 10 cents from China. Now we're getting a lot of money from China. And I think that's one of the reasons that GDP was so high in the first quarter, because of the tariffs that we've taken in from China. We always have the option to raise it another $300 billion at 25%, and the 25% could be much higher than 25%.
I'm checking in on the markets next. Asian indexes on the rise in spite of those renewed trade threats from Trump. Those following Wall Street higher after the apparent resolution of that Mexico trade conflict. Tokyo's Nikkei up about 0.33%. Chinese indexes leading the gains, though Hong Kong's Hang Seng up 0.8%. Shanghai Composite up 2.2% as Beijing announces new economic stimulus measures will be made available from local governments in China. The Kospi in Seoul up just under 0.6% ahead of the closing bell there. Next, a shortage of public funds is nothing new for local authorities across France. In recent years, they've looked to fill the gaps in their budgets by selling off unused state property from schools to barracks, even prisons. The longer these real estate assets stand empty, though, the more they deteriorate and the less they're worth. Luke Schrager explains.
This was once a teacher training centre. It hasn't been used in years, but it's still on the books, and now the Eure department in northern France wants rid of it. It comes with a price tag of 1.2 million euros, but it's quite the fixer-upper, to say the least.
You can see these large puddles of water building up, and up by the roof, the impermeability from the terrace has degraded, which has allowed water in and caused the wall to crack.
The simple fact is that local authorities don't have the means to pay for upkeep, and it shows. Though they believe it's just a matter of finding the right buyer.
You could make homes, service residences, or offices. You just need an investor with the idea for a project and the money to carry it out.
Other properties are slightly cheaper, like this old police station that's going for a snip at 150,000. Only problem, the fungus that infested the building, and the price tag won't cover the work carried out. For local politicians, it's about being rational.
There's maintenance, there's monitoring, it all costs a lot. And today, money that isn't being used or that just flows out the door, that's all over.
Despite the daunting work that might need doing, it can be done. This old prison in southeast France gained a second life as an exhibition and meeting spot after an investor picked it up for 500,000 euros. And there are plenty more up for sale, from border posts to car parks and offices. One of the most successful sales was in 2016, when the state sold off the buildings on an old airbase, netting the Ministry of Defence a tidy sum, 20 million euros.
Finally, for business, video game makers have long made use of the juxtaposition between fantasy and realism. At this year's E3 Game Industry Conference in Los Angeles, it's streaming services that are the big theme. French giant Ubisoft, no exception. It's unveiling a $15 a month service to launch in the US and Europe in September. Among the titles, though, one inspired by current events. Watch Dogs Legion is set in a dystopian post-Brexit London, where automation and artificial intelligence have wrecked the economy. Private military corporations fill in where austerity and budget cuts have decimated public security, and the pound has been replaced by cryptocurrencies. Essentially just what we're predicting already.
Well,
Stuart.
exactly.
I mean,
that's what I was going to say.
We'll see in October how much of it comes true. But
they could do with a bit of artificial intelligence, I have to say. But anyway, thank you very much, Brian. Brian Quinn with the Business on France 24.